Long ago, 5 men set out from their own paths to achieve their own destinies. Now they are brothers, united under one cause. Alone they are strong, together they are unbreakable. They are bonded by metal.
Hey, welcome back to Bonded by Metal. We are talking the 17th and final album from thrash metal maestros Megadeth with their album titled Megadeth. I can't believe it took them this long to actually go for a self-titled album. Well, here we are, but this time I'm not going solo for this one. Unlike my best of 2025 albums, I got some company, the Cavalry per se. One of them would be the Disciple of Rock. How are you, sir?
Excellent. Just like the album in question today. But it isn't surprising they waited this long to do a self-titled album. Generally, those are debut. You don't normally see them as the swan song. So a very interesting path here. But hey, we know Megadeth loves to buck the normal trends.
Yeah, no, and we'll definitely get into that. Great to have you here, Pope Metallicus. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, and I am rather like Cavalry, but only from the waist down.
Ah! Oh, that was good.
But I can't wait to be talking this record, because if this is going to be Megadeth's last album, again, if you've watched our previous ones, press X to doubt. But if this is going to be their last hurrah, then they really nailed it with this one. And I think we're going to go into a really solid album here.
Okay, so let's get into some of the nitty gritty on this album. So obviously I listened to this album now a handful of times. I bought it on Friday at a local record store, got it on CD, listened to it every day, once or twice a day since then. So it's been 5, 6, 7 listens of this album, somewhere in there, maybe more, but we'll just say at least 5. And I really enjoy this album. It definitely is a grower of an album. That's for sure. At least that's my experience out of it. It's definitely something that you definitely got to have additional listens to really let this one sink in, which is a good thing. Because at first, I like this album. I don't know if I love it, but I like this album. But I'm liking is like it's starting to get to the love status, and I like where I'm at with that. So, what were your thoughts on these several listens, Pope?
I think I'm on listen number 4 or 5 at this point, and what struck me right away with the first 2 tracks is how much of a fingerprint in there is from Rust in Peace and Peace Cells. Like they went right back to their old sound that came out of the late 80s and early 90s, and it was perfect. And I really appreciate that, because those are my 2 favorite albums from them. So obviously I'm going to love it when they go back to that. And what struck me too is the intro to the album kind of reminded me of the beginning of Invincible Shield by Judas Priest, where you had that kind of
interesting,
that rhythm riff combined with that twin guitar on the second refrain, and then going into the actual main song.
Wow, that's wow. That's a very left field comparison, but I might have to listen later for my own observances. Okay, cool. So, Disciple of Rock, what were your first thoughts now that you've had this album to your listening ears for what, 5, 6 days now?
I've only done 3 listens since I think Saturday, so I've listened to every day since Saturday.
Okay.
No, I really like it. Now, I first started listening to the singles before I really went in depth into Megadeth, and I didn't really care for them. Now that was being naive on Megadeth and kind of not being familiar, but I figured once I listened to everything on Megadeth that I was going to appreciate it based off like what you guys are saying, and that was absolutely confirmed upon listening to it. As it is interesting, because to me it really digs deep into like classic Megadeth, while also touching on some of the better points of Symphony of Destruction. I know I had raised some controversy about that, but it kind of, when it does heavy metal, yes,
okay,
yeah.
Carry on though. Carry on.
It kind of it kind of completes that when Megadeth does that heavy metal, they kind of take a step back from thrash and focus more on heavy metal. To me, it does it right. I think like a good example would be Another Bad Day, which gave me some Queensryche vibes a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah, I can hear it.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
that
I
opening
can actually see where you're coming from though. Okay, cool.
And it was really well done. So, like I said, I liked it the first time. I was afraid it was like a honeymoon that, hey, it's new, so I like it. Second time around, really, really liked it. I just listened to it just before we started this, and I really, really, really liked it. So, yeah, I think this is a really good album.
Okay, awesome. I like where we're all going with this. So let's get into some of the smaller details. I guess the geek shit. So I noticed the production on here is a bit on the drier side, and you know what? Production also is on the bit on the drier side, and actually I'm fine with it. I know there's been some complaints about it. I don't have any issues with it. So for me, it's just like it's a metal album. I don't really care, but Countdown to Extinction's production is a bit on the dry side as well, and I think it works fine. What I do love as well, as far as geek shit, James Lomenzo's bass is actually very audible on songs like Made to Kill. You can really hear that bass, and that's something that a lot of metal bands, even still to this day, have issues with audible bass. This album has really strong bass sound from James Lomenzo. It is really like it sticks out, and I like that a lot.
One thing I noticed on this record too is they had a couple little tributes to Marty Friedman in there on I forget what song it is, but there's the solo he's doing that he kind of plays the beginning of the Tornado Soul solo in the background of it. I'm like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing there.
Okay. And you know what? Maybe that could have something to do with the pairing of Dave Mustaine and Timu. I'm not going to try to butcher his last name. I'm sorry, buddy. If you want to reach out to me on social medias and let me know how it's pronounced, I would love to get it right. But he was from Winter Sun, and in order to be, from Winter Sun to Megadeth, obviously that means the guy is absolutely more than qualified for the job. I've seen Winter Sun live. That was over 10 years ago. I think he goes great with Dave as far as guitar duos go. A lot of solo offs between the two, kind of like the way Dave and Marty were together. I really like them together. This is obviously most likely going to be Timu's first, last, and only album with the band, but this is a really great way of showcasing his talents in Megadeth.
Yeah.
What do you think on that, Disciple?
Yeah, I was going to say the musicianship, just period, is phenomenal on this album. For instance, the song I Don't Care, and pun intended, I don't really care how Dave Mustaine sings that song. But the musicianship, pardon me, I've had voice issues today, but the musicianship is unbelievable. Like the solos in that song are well worth the price of admission. So like that is something that stood out to me as how like clean and tight it was.
I'm glad you mentioned I Don't Care. I want to bounce off of that actually. I really enjoy that song. Now, if I had heard it before the album came out, maybe I would appreciate it less. But if you look at it, it's the one song that's kind of like it's an odd one of the bunch. It's got a lot more of a punk rockier feel, especially in the vocal style. And Dave really has the vocals high up in the mix in this album over everything. And that song, I feel like, really emphasizes that overall. And if you even listen to the way the song moves, it definitely has that old punk flow to it. I'm okay with that as an outlier of a song. So I really enjoy the song, even to a point where I would say it's actually one of my favorite songs on the album. Maybe it's one of those things where I only listened to Tipping Point a handful of times before the album came out because I wanted to go in dry as much as possible into this album. And I think it's safe to say I succeed in that regard. So, okay, production, bass, going to about how the album has been a bit of a grower for people, which I think is cool. How about standout tracks for you, Disciple? What are the tracks on here that really stand out for you?
I'll give you my three.
Sure. One, two, or three, whatever you want to give.
It's really in no particular order.
Sure.
Tipping Point, absolutely. Let There Be Shred, and Another Bad Day.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Cool.
And I Am War is also really good, too.
Oh, okay. Now, if you had to pick a miss for the album, whether it was bad or just kind of what would be the song you feel like went in the wrong direction? Or if you
there's only one miss for me on this song, and that's Obey the Call.
Yeah.
Really? Okay. That's interesting. All right. We're gonna have an interesting
I,
conversation.
I
Go ahead.
I know the song "Hey God" may not be his best song, but coming from Christian background, that song kind of can resonate with
Okay.
someone who's a Christian. Kind of talk about like struggle of like kind of staying on the straight path and kind of feeling like, hey, are you really listening, God, to me? Like, I know I'm always the one walking away from you. So, as a Christian, that one kind of resonates heavily with me. So I kind of like it for that purpose alone. But yeah, there's only the one real miss from me, and that was Obey the Call.
Okay. Pope, what would be the standout track or 2 or 3 for you?
For me, it would be Tipping Point. I don't care, which is where I was coming from with the Peace Sells, not plagiarism, but homage, because that old school punk sound is straight off of Peace Sells what he was buying.
You think it was influenced by its own Anarchy in the UK
Oh, yeah.
cover?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the last track, the last note. I think if you're going to end a career like Megadeth has had, that's the perfect way to do it.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll get into some of my standouts. For me, my standout, ready for this? Actually, my favorite song on here is Obey the Call. Straight up, no BS. I love that song. I think that was one of my favorite songs. And then I really dig, I dig most of them. As far as if I had to go with a number 2 song, it would probably either be Made to Kill or I Don't Care, actually. Made to Kill is wild. James's bass once again sounds great. And they go into some really nutty stuff on the instruments. And it sounds like Dave's voice is just like hanging out for dear life, knowing I just gotta make it. I gotta make it to the end. And I feel like he's just like it's one of those. It feels like the track is kind of leaving me on the edge of suspense. As far as the misses, I'm probably gonna have to go with Puppet Parade and I Am War. I really wanted to like I Am War. Obviously, that's a great song title. The song just I don't even think it's bad. It's not like something I'm listening to on Risk or Super Collider, but just kind of it's fine. It's fine. So I guess you could say it's a slight misfire. And Puppet Parade, I love the idea. I think there's some cool lyrics there. I think there's a great idea there. I just feel like it could have been done a bit better. Now, moving it forward, I feel like if we had to create an alternate timeline, I feel like this album would have been the logical next step. And this is just like a theory, how I feel, opinion type of thing. I think this album would have been the logical follow-up in an alternate universe to Countdown to Extinction. Because if you think about it, Countdown, they went to the hard rock sound. And then with this album, you have the hard rock sound, but then you have some of the metal sound again. Rather than just go even more hard rock the way they did with Euthanasia Onward. How do you feel? How do you feel on that, Pope? Do you feel like this would have been a logical follow-up, or is that just a thought in my head?
I'm tracking with you there because, like, if they had course corrected after Countdown rather than doing Euthanasia,
see, that was their biggest album. It wasn't even a course correction. That was their biggest selling album of all time.
Well, but I mean, like, in terms of sonically going back towards their 80s stuff, like this would logically be much like exactly what that album is, rather than Euthanasia.
How about you, Disciple? Where do you feel like this would this have been the appropriate album to follow up Countdown? Had it come out right after in an alternate universe?
Absolutely. Like, I don't know if I thought that, but now that you mention it, because I think I was flirting with the idea, but now that you mention it, I absolutely am going to agree with that. And I will be honest, if this was after Countdown, I would love Countdown. Okay. I would actually really like Countdown if this was after Countdown and we didn't get Euthanasia, Risk, and Cryptic Writings and all that crap. Like, this is what I wanted out of that era of Megadeth. And hey, at least they came around to it.
Okay. Excellent. How about now? Let's get to really quickly because I haven't listened to the 3 bonus tracks. I've only heard 1. 2 of them are originals. I know I suck for the review. I've not heard the other bonus tracks. I've only heard the Metallica cover. Me personally, I didn't even care about when it was announced. I've always been an originals guy. I don't really give much attention to covers with metal bands. So even then, I was like, oh, I get it. Yes, it's notable because it's Megadeth doing Metallica. So of course I listened because that was the bonus track on my CD. Well, and I wasn't really wild about it. You know, I get why Dave did it. You know, the whole story behind it. We don't need to get into that because if you're watching this video, you probably have a good idea. So explain that's just stupid. I wasn't really wild about it, and I'm just honestly perfectly content with the album ending at the last note for me, which I feel like is a really strong closer. Where are you at Disciple on the Metallica closer?
It's a little too pristine compared to the original,
I agree.
but I really like it just as the middle finger to Metallica fans.
Okay.
So anything to piss off the Metallica fan babies, I will gladly like. Saying that as a fan of the first 3 albums.
I don't even want Metallica to re-record that song. To me, it's one of those things where if Megadeth had covered this, let's just say 1992, I feel like that would have been a more fitting time to have done it. Granted, I know he was at the height of his career, so probably doing that.
No, I disagree. That would seem way too petty at that time.
Okay.
It seems way better now because, and let's remove the Black Album fanboys from it. We're going to stick to...
Sure.
Let's stick to real, honest metal opinions. The first 3 or 4 Metallica albums are gold. We'll all agree with that, right?
I agree with that.
Right.
At least for me, yeah.
But if we're being objective, we're going to say Megadeth overall is better than Metallica ever was, right?
Oh, for me, Megadeth was always my preferable band.
But Metallica was probably commercially more successful.
Oh, of course. That's
right.
Not even for
they're more successful than anyone.
Yes.
So it would have come across very petty. But now for Megadeth to have, you could include Dystopia, but you have 3 albums that are real, true comeback albums. Return to form. We're Megadeth. We're doing what we used to do. Whereas Metallica is, where the hell are they even right now? I don't know. Right? It feels like a perfect bitter end, as like a bitter middle finger, as F you, I'm out of here kind of thing from Dave Mustaine. So I think the timing's right. I just think it's a little too clean.
Okay. Hey, valid. Pope, what are your thoughts on Metallica cover?
I agree on the production that it's way too cleaned up and way too polished to be a good or a real solid cover. I did enjoy the song for itself, though. He did a good job covering it. It's not like he fucked it all up. And I mean, Ride the Lightning is my favorite Metallica album. So obviously there's that little bit of nostalgia, especially knowing who wrote it. Like, you know what? That's just the right amount of petty, Dave. I like it. But no, I mean, I can see why it's there, but I agree with you that the last note should have been the end all be all of that album and just let it fade.
Yeah, I just turn off my album as soon as the last note finishes. I just turn it off. And even though I have it physically on CD, when I put it on Spotify under the playlist, I made a playlist for the album. I took out the cover, so that way it just default ends at the last note. I feel like I'd ask you guys, and I'll lead off with my thoughts, and I'll pass on to Pope after. But hearing this song, it actually does feel like it's the last album. I actually was kind of questioning that thought when I heard the announcement back in the summer when we were getting this channel started. And now that we have heard this album, and we also know Dave Mustaine's let's just say his current condition, and he's got a lot of them. I actually feel like this feels like the right time for him to go. Obviously things could change, but do I buy it? I absolutely do. So where are you at, Pope? Do you think this truly is Megadeth's last album, or do you just not know? What you be honest with me, man? Where are you?
Having heard it, I'm still doubtful it'll ever be the last album because there's going to be one more that they got in the tank. Maybe if Dave is feeling better or has an idea that's really cranking in his skull, then we'll get another one. But I'm okay if it is. Like the way this was put together and the way they went out on this one, if this is the last thing they ever produce for a studio album, I'm about it.
Okay, awesome. Disciple, what are your thoughts? Or do you think it's too soon to tell? Do you not know? Do you feel like it's all still BS? Where are you?
It's honestly going to be really too soon to tell.
Okay.
I would hope it's where he ends. And I would think, like, why do you write a song, the last note? Why do you do a song that, little monologue at the end where he literally says, this is my last will and testament? I don't know why you do another one. it seems like a thing that Kiss would do, or how many like Ozzy Osbourne would do. Oh no, I'm not dead, unless he wants to do something really funny and just say, like, just lean into the "I'm Not Dead Yet" album or something like that. Like, maybe, but pettiness is hard to tell. But considering like the thing with his hand, I don't know if he can do another album.
Yeah, he's had cancer.
He's got, was it good?
He's
How
got
do you
the
pronounce
hand
it?
issues. The band broke up the first time in the early 2000s because he had issues with his hands. He's had tons of issues. And then let's not forget the alcohol and the drug. It feels like there's a bit of the debt is starting to come due in a sense.
He kind of went into that in the last note. Lyrically.
Oh, he did. He definitely he knows about his past. Mm-hmm.
He's
Wasn't
like,
he totally sober though now?
I lived it up in my 20s, and now I'm paying for it.
Yeah, it definitely, and maybe that could be why it feels like he's trying to be a sincere. It's more of like my body is on the last fumes, and maybe I'd like to think hopefully just above the fumes, because we don't want Megadeth to be playing on fumes when I see them live. But it definitely is like, okay, I'm going to give you guys all I got one last time, because my body straight up feels like it's ready to just fall apart on me. And I worry, kind of, admittedly, that there could be a bit of an Ozzy situation, knock on wood, once Dave actually properly hangs up. But maybe I'll be wrong, and the man can just go to Hawaii and enjoy the sunset. Anyways, let us know your thoughts in the comment on this album. Did you love it? Did you think it was okay? Did you feel like this album sucked? I want to know your honest thoughts in the comments. I want to thank my gentlemen, Pope Metallicus and Disciple of Rock, for joining me for this video. We'll all see you on the next video. And you lay down your souls to the gods rock and roll. Yeah.
You have the biggest dick I've ever seen on a man.